Welcome to Movie Magic 96, your one-stop shop for all things movies, reviews, unboxings, and collections. I'm thrilled because today I finally get to roll the film on one of my favorite titles, Edward Scissorhands. I've owned it on DVD, Blu-ray, and now on 4K Steelbook. Let's cut to the review. At the time, Tim Burton was coming off hits like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, and Batman. His first three films were all distributed by Warner Brothers, a company Burton would go on to work with 7 more times over his career, while Edward was produced by 20th Century Fox. I imagine Tim wanted to do something largely from his own imagination after working on Big Adventure and Batman, which were already existing IPs. With Edward Scissorhands, he not only directed but also wrote the story. Burton brought back composer Danny Elfman for the score, as he had done for his earlier works. Casting-wise, Johnny Depp had been on TV's 21 Jump Street and played various other main roles, but was looking to break the mold of the good-looking typical leading man, so he committed himself to this unusual part. The film also stars Winona Ryder, who was dating Depp at the time, Diane Weist, Anthony Michael Hall, who plays a great antagonist, Jim, and Vincent Price. On the awards front, the film was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Makeup, and Johnny Depp was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy, but it lost both nominations. It did, however, win the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. From the opening credits sequence through the introduction to Edward's creation, the film is pitch perfect. The Gothic mansion design, the snow, the contrast of the pastel suburbs, and Edward's dark aesthetic is visually stunning. In my opinion, Johnny Depp gives his second best performance here after Captain Jack Sparrow, though of course that character got sequels and time to evolve. He somehow gives a robot or humanoid creature so much heart. For example, when Edward replies he didn't wake up about his father the inventor, we instantly sense his naivety and not of this world nature. His facial expressions and delivery are impeccable. Little touches, Edward hearing Peg's house phone ring and looking up because he's never heard one before, and the oomph sound when he accidentally cuts his face or punctures Kim's waterbed. It doesn't fall into overacting, quite the opposite, so it stays true to the character. I especially love the moment when Peg just brings him home and accepts him for who he is. That makes me so happy. Peg's husband Bill is also kind, while Kevin is acting like a normal kid, wanting to play with Edward but is still genuine, not overly sympathetic towards him. Even when Edward angrily scrapes up the house, Jim is still understanding, but says he needs to pay. Edward chopping the lettuce, opening beers, cooking shish kebabs, and cutting the bushes shows how helpful he can be. Now, we don't see Kim and her boyfriend Jim until 40 minutes in, a fact I forgot about not watching the film for a few years. There's also humor sprinkled in. Kim returns from camping, enters her room without knowing Edward's in the bed, screams, and Edward tries to run away. Jim tries to explain puberty to Edward, housewives feed Edward mouthfuls at the barbecue, Edward grooms dogs and cuts hair in a Dr. Seuss-style way, and he sculpts the bush outside Esmeralda's house in the shape of a devil because she's a religious nut. The town also is a character of its own. Gossiping housewives on phones, hanging outside talking, and running back to their houses when their husbands come home from work. The housewives even invite themselves for a barbecue to meet Edward. The town didn't know Edward existed, then when they found out he could help them, they took advantage of him. One of my favorite shots, the husbands all leaving their houses at the same time. Their cars lined up and headed off in a row. So true of the monotonous 9-to-5 world many of us know. Another detail you'll pick up on in multiple viewings is when Edward has anxiety, his scissors move back and forth. A brilliant physical detail. On a personal note, when Kim asks Edward to hold her and he says he can't, that hits me right in the feels. We've all had that relationship that didn't work out for one reason or another. The moral of the story is the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. The 90s were a juggernaut decade for movies, but I put this film in my top 10. I'm giving the film a 5 out of 5. The Steelbook release features a native 4K transfer with HDR10 and Dolby Vision support. The audio has a Dolby Atmos track and a Dolby True HD 7.1 track. Color is stunning. The contrast between bright pastel houses and Edward's dark leather outfit really pops. The movie was shot on film, so grain structure remains, which is good, although some shots aren't perfectly sharp and occasionally you'll see a slight inconsistency in clarity within the same scene. That could feel a little jarring on 3 separate occasions. Sure, the film might not require Dolby Atmos, it's not a big budget action film, but I'm glad they included it. Elfman's score sounds better than ever, although I didn't notice a huge difference from the Blu-ray in terms of immersive sound. Downsides, there are no new special features. Only 2 audio commentaries, a trailer, and a 4-minute featurette. That's pretty bare bones for an anniversary edition. All things considered, picture and audio are very good, artwork is beautiful, but lack of new special features in the Blu-ray issue make this release a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Now, this is the only way to own the film on 4K at the time of filming. I hate when there's no cheaper standard slipcover option, however, I truly love this artwork. On the front, you see Edward in his reflection of his scissors. You can see his house on the hill and Kim. All right, I'll go ahead and show off the side real quick. And then on the back, you see Kim and Edward's eye reflected in broken window. I ordered this the day it was announced, October 7th, and it released on October 28th, one of the fastest turnaround times I've seen between announcements and release. I paid $39.99, which is pricey in my book, but for a collector who loves the film, it's worth it. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna take out the digital code, which I forgot to do. All right, so right here we do have the 4K disc. Always hard to get the Blu-ray out of Steelbooks, but the Blu-ray disc. And we've got a picture of Edward on his staircase. So I'll go ahead and put everything back together. And in 1 second, I'm also going to show you the other versions that I have, because I have owned this on DVD and Blu-ray. So let's go ahead and let's put the Blu-ray in frame, which most people probably have. Front and back. And then we will do the, look at this, the 10th anniversary edition. So cool. So this obviously would have come out in 2000. I'll try to get them all in frame here. And then I'll flip them over and you guys can pause and read some of the special features. All right, popping in the 4K disc, you can hear sort of that instrumental score from Danny Elfman, and you got sort of stylized images from the film. All right, we can go to scenes, pretty standard at the bottom. Setup, let's go to audio. We've got English Dolby Atmos, English 2.0, French, Spanish, so on and so forth. And we go to extras, and we have that audio commentary by director Tim Burton, and then the audio commentary by composer Danny Elfman. So that 4-minute featurette is only on the Blu-ray. Is Edward Scissorhands also your favorite Tim Burton film? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at MovieMagic1996. Thanks so much for everything, and as always, go watch a Tim Burton film today.